swarmed the field in droves, desperately clutching for keepsakes.
And then I realized as it was ending, people were storming the field and tearing up pieces of sod.
Police arrested 20 fans for disorderly conduct out of the thousands who stormed the field.
Oh yeah, people were burning stuff. And, I mean, guys had wrenches and tools with them so they could dig up the seat. And people were guys were carrying out 2 and 3 seats at a time.
You're this hardcore football player, but you see fans, grown men, grown women crying, tears in their eyes.
It's a little after 7 p.m. on December 22nd, 1996. Inside the walls of a football stadium near the west bank of the Anacostia River in Washington, D.C., chaos is unfolding.
But some of these people were in their 70s and, they had been doing this for a long, long time. And, so there were hugs and maybe a few tears because you didn't know if you were going to see those people ever again.
And we talk about the RFK and the stadium and the last time, but they still hate the Cowboys here, too.
Championships and Super Bowls, hogs and Hall of Famers, shaking stands and flying cushions. Cheers turn to tears. This goodbye wasn't easy. This is Hail Tales, stories from Washington football history. The last game at RFK. The idea for a national stadium in the capital can be traced back as far as 1916. With the goal of attracting an Olympics to the area, a DC stadium concept saw spikes of popularity in the 1930s and again in the 1950s. In 1958, President Eisenhower finally signed the District of Columbia Stadium Act, which authorized a 50,000-seat stadium to be used by Washington's baseball team and football team at the Armory site. Builders broke ground in 1960. The stadium, the one we'd know as RFK, but was then called DC Stadium, opened on October 1st, 1961, with the Burgundy and Gold's Week 3 tilt versus the New York Giants.
A dream of decades comes true next Sunday when the gates swing open on Washington's new $24 million beauty. The DC Stadium, spawned by an act of Congress and now spiraling into the skies. More than 40,000 fans are expected to flock into the spacious stadium, described by sports figures across the nation as perhaps the prettiest sports park in all the land, when the Washington Redskins play the New York Giants 1 week from this afternoon.
It didn't take Washington very long to fall in love with its new stadium. Going to see the local pro football team became a popular to-do in the district.
The way that the architects designed it, where the noise would go up and come back down, I think it was as loud as any outdoor stadium you could find, and louder than some of the stadiums that were indoors.
Brian Mitchell, Super Bowl champion, running back and return specialist for the Burgundy and Gold from 1990 to 1999.
Certain things about it. You look across the field and you see the stadium's actually rocking. The band, the way that it would be right there, right on you, the crowd was. You're coming out of a dugout like you're going onto a baseball field. The thing I love so much about it, where I've been many places and I never saw a place where it didn't make a difference what color, race, creed, religion you were. Everybody came together to cheer for the Burgundy and Gold on that day, and you had no issues.
It was the intimacy, knowing where people were sitting. They were the same people sitting in those same seats over and over and over again.
Charles Mann, 3-time Super Bowl champion, Washington defensive end from 1983 to 1993.
The stands rocking. I mean, that just juiced us up. If you can't get excited about that, you need to be on an IV and maybe get some oxygen and maybe you're comatose.
There were other sensory elements about RFK that stood out. Paul Butler, who has had season tickets in his family since 1963, remembers.
It smelled the same way every time you went. You'd park out in the grass parking lot and walk through the tunnel where everyone who thought they were the funniest people on earth would moo like cattle.
The main reason it was so special for us was we truly did have a 12th man.
Gary Clark, two-time Super Bowl champion, wide receiver for Washington from 1985 to 1992.
And you came into RFK, your chances of winning, don't get me wrong, we weren't 100% winning in RFK, but your chances of beating us in RFK was like 2 out of 10. I mean, for the most part, we were going to spank your butt just because our crowds got into it. They never gave up on us, ever. I mean, we could be down by 20 points in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left, and they still think we're going to figure out a way to pull it out.
Former team beat writer for the Washington Post, Christine Brennan.
The other wonderful piece of the puzzle in the story of RFK was that it was in D.C. And, those camera shots from outside the stadium looking down all the way to the Capitol, because it was perfectly symmetrical, the line to the Capitol and then to the Washington Monument and then to the Lincoln Memorial. Amazing. Just amazing vistas, and everything about it just screamed out, this is the nation's capital, this is Washington, and this is Washington's team.
So many iconic franchise moments unfolded on that grass.
But there wasn't one time that I walked out of the stadium that I didn't know that I had watched a great player.
As Comer drops straight back, being rushed, throws his pass to Taylor, touchdown Washington!
One deep on the fly for Clark, caught at the 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Washington Redskins.
Big run, John Riggin. Set up a screen, batted in the air, picked off by Darryl Grant. Touchdown, Washington Redskins. I don't believe it. Unbelievable. Oh, what a play. Dexter Manley tipped the pass. Darryl Grant got the interception, and now the stadium shakes. Oh, they're going crazy.
RFK wasn't just a home in the way all sports teams have one. It was a place of belonging, where the many, no matter where they came from, literally rocked as one. All the core memories, all the shared joy and the shared struggle and everything in between, it made being on that field, being in those stands, feel something like magic. And while so much about RFK emotionally was enduring, the infrastructure, well, that was maybe a different story. Eventually, Father Time began taking its toll. That, in combination with the evolving business landscape of the NFL, led to a call for change by some.
You have to understand, there's a lot of nostalgia to RFK. There's no question about that.
Charlie Casserly, Washington general manager from 1989 to 1999.
But it was an older stadium. From the team's point of view, teams were moving franchises all over the place. They were getting big money deals. They were getting new stadiums. What did a new stadium mean? It meant club seats, okay? It meant suites. None of these things existed at RFK. So here is Jack Kent Cooke announces he will build a stadium. Well, twice it was rejected in the city by the different things that happened. Mayor Barry got arrested. That killed that deal. One time, a tragic situation, the president of the city council hung himself. That eliminated that deal. The governor in Virginia, Doug Wilder, had given the land in Alexandria on Route 1 by eminent domain. We had a press conference announcing the building of the stadium. That got nixed by the people in Alexandria. He bought half of Laurel, Maryland, to try to buy put a stadium there when there was no team in Maryland, but the governor blocked it there. So it's a 10-year odyssey, okay? And one interesting story. So we knew it was coming. But one story, and I don't know this one's ever been told. I'm sitting at practice one day with Jack Kent Cooke, and he says to me, I can go to L.A., meaning they gave him the land and he could buy the stadium. And that's why LA wanted a team and never got one until the owner of the team now, he built the stadium. They gave him the land. He said, I can't leave here. And he says, because of the fans. But it was a 10-year odyssey to keep the team in Washington. That's what really happened.
A deal does finally get done in the DMV. In the very last days of 1995, Maryland and Prince George's County leaders and team owner Jack Kent Cooke reach an agreement that clears way for a new stadium on the site of a dairy farm in Landover, Maryland.
April 25th, 1996. The Washington Redskins will begin the 1996 regular season on September 1st against Philadelphia at RFK Stadium and complete the campaign there against Dallas on December 22nd. Redskins owner Jack Kent Cooke is hoping his new stadium in Prince George's County will be ready for the 1997 season, so it's possible, unless the Redskins do well enough to host a playoff game, that the December 22nd contest could be their last at RFK Stadium.
The 1996 season doesn't go as well as Washington would have hoped, so that possibility becomes reality. Washington versus Dallas will be the last game at RFK.
It couldn't have been a better rival, than the Cowboys.
Henry Ellard, three-time Pro Bowler and receiver for Washington from 1994 to 1998.
And you didn't have to get up for a game like that. That was your divisional rival, and then you played them twice a year, and so, of course, they always had good seasons, so you really, if we wasn't doing so well, that was our motivator. Okay, if we could finish this thing off the right way, especially beating the Cowboys, that's icing on the cake for us.
Lifelong Washington fan Mark McGarry was at that December 22nd game against Dallas.
The Cowboys were, always talking smack, and they weren't even playing their best players. They were resting their players. The coach said something like, oh, yeah, this isn't really a meaningful game, and that irritated a lot of the hometown fans. It was meaning to us because we knew this was the last game, but the Cowboys, there's always been a love-hate thing there, and to this day, we always root for them to lose no matter who they are. But, it was a, brisk night. It wasn't too cold out. It wasn't snowing or anything, but it was, it was mid-40s, 50 degrees outside. But everybody... The parking lot was a zoo. Everybody was just ready to go. It was a very festive atmosphere.
If a stadium could only talk, for the last time, RFK Stadium, the site of today's match between the Dallas Cowboys and Washington Redskins. Another sellout, no surprise there. They've had them since the beginning. Summerall, John Madden at RFK Stadium. We won't be able to say that much longer, John, but this is a great place. As Boniol and the Dallas kickoff team are out on the field, Brian Mitchell and William Bell back deep for the Redskins. It's Brian Mitchell. And he breaks out of the pack out to about the 34-yard line where the Redskins will start. Here's Wade Wilson. Pass is almost picked off. Darrell Green almost intercepted it.
Yeah, we talk about all the old Washington Redskins and great Washington Redskins. There's one right there, Darrell Green.
Rock fake to Terry Allen. Hits Henry Ellard. Right at the 20. Westbrook gets the slant. And he signals for another first down. It is Allen again. His 19th touchdown of the year, and the Redskins move further ahead. Open for the Redskins, Michael Westbrook.
This guy is a heck of a player.
Run. Henry Ellard to the 5. Two tight ends set up for the Redskins.
You see that, Pat?
Yeah.
Terry Allen put the ball down and he ran into the stands.
Wilson throws the interception as the Redskins take over.
Wade Wilson just threw that one up for grabs. He was getting a pass rush, and that has to be on the pass rush. He just went to get rid of that one.
Second goal. Allen again into the end zone and into the stands from 6 yards out.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. This is a way to
Washington goes on to silence the doubters and electrifies RFK Stadium one last time, crushing Dallas 37-10. After the victory, the Burgundy and Gold faithful give the stadium a send-off in a way only they knew how. Paul Butler had brought actual tools inside the stadium to help him lift a seat.
During the course of the game, as I was trying to get the wrench on nuts and bolts, they had so many coats of paint on them for over the years, because these were wooden and metal seats. They weren't the plastic ones that they have now or had recently. And I couldn't get a wrench on them. I couldn't get the pliers on them. So I started hacking away with a hacksaw. And the two guys that sat behind us, who were also the same two guys that sat behind us when we moved to FedEx Field, they helped me. And when I would get tired, because a hacksaw doesn't cut through the wood very well, when I would get tired, one of them would take over.
I eventually made my way down to the 50-yard line, and this woman in a full-length fur coat and 5-inch stiletto heels is on her hands and knees with one shoe digging up a piece of turf. This woman goes, "Hey, can you help me?" And I said, "Help you do what? You're doing a pretty good job. I don't have a shovel." But she was literally wearing a full-length mink coat, and I was like, my God. So that's something I've never, just that vision, I wish I could have taken a picture of her in her fur coat.
You saw people, like you said, taking pieces of the stadium. It's a memory for them. And so, that to me was just, it was precious, because it was like this was a part of that little piece of whatever, that chair, that stadium was generations of people going to the game. It was seeing the first black quarterback in the Super Bowl. It was the players that I played with who were still on the team from when, they won the Super Bowls. Those little pieces of it was history.
And it was just a special moment, like I said, just history coming to a close in one place and getting ready to start in another.
And John, your final thoughts about today and about the season for these two?
Well, it's just my final thoughts are really about being here at RFK. And like I said earlier, there's no place that I would rather be than right here in RFK Stadium today, because there were so many great moments here, and moments that we've been together over the years and games, and it wasn't just one play or one group or one guy. It was a combination, to me, the memories of all the fans, and how great they were, and how this whole place would shake and jump, and and the fight song, and the Hogs and Riggo and players and close games, and Joe Jacoby going against Lawrence Taylor, and the great battles, and Joe Theismann, and all the players and things that happened here, and you just kind of collect them all and put them right in here and say, doggone, this was pretty good.
And that was goodbye. The Burgundy and Gold started their move to the freshly built Jack Kent Cooke Stadium, as it was then called. When all was said and done, that venue went up in 17 months, faster than any modern football stadium at that time. Though Washington hasn't played a game at RFK in nearly 30 years, all of its meaning, how it made people feel, lives on.
One time we were at FedEx, and my dad had not gone to the game, and my mom and my stepfather were giving me a ride home. And for some reason, we decided to go down Central Avenue, which becomes East Capitol Street. And right before we went across Anacostia River, you're driving right at RFK. And my mom said, "It's like coming home."
But it was just a great spot. That stadium, I went to boxing matches in it. I saw soccer matches in it. I saw baseball games in it. And every time I had a certain little feel when I walked into it. Like, I went over one day to talk to my buddy. They're basically destroying it from the inside out. And when I went over there, my hair stands up on my arm still. And, I guess it'll be like that the rest of my life. Every time I'm on those grounds, I'll feel that way.
There's a new chapter in the legacy of RFK, ready to be written. To learn more and pledge your support, please visit commanders.com/stadium. This episode of Hail Tales was narrated, produced, and researched by me, Hannah Lichtenstein, senior copywriter for the Washington Commanders. It was produced and edited by Jason Johnson. Executive producers are Ryan Yoakum and Kevin Klein. Additional voiceover help comes from Bram Weinstein. Graphics designed by Zach Osborne and Matt Cashman. Like, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for more Hail Tales episodes this summer. Thank you to our guests for their contributions, and thank you for listening.